Garrison Keeler's on now. You know you're in NPR territory when Garrison Keeler starts talking in his slow, deep drone. Very knowledgeable, but very, very Minnesota. So what are we doing now? You're taking off the bell housing, you're taking off the transmission?
The transmission. Then after that the bell housing.
Yeah, one thing at a time, honestly. How many screws, how many nuts do you have? Take off.
I think 6.
6, okay.
Is it? 6, yeah.
So you're gonna do...
I think there was one missing even. Like I just noticed that there's one missing.
The nut is totally off, or the bolt is too?
The whole thing. I mean, it's only a bolt. There's no nuts. It goes in the bell housing.
So the bolt is actually embedded, it's screwed into the bell housing.
Yep. Yep. It's only like this.
Are they coming? Oh, geez, they're heavy duty too.
Yep.
Are they coming out easy?
Yeah.
Good.
Sure, this one is not going to be easy.
Well, you never know.
But I just noticed actually there's some oil coming out here. I'm not sure if this is another gasket.
No, that could be from yesterday when we were testing that oil pressure thing. We had oil leaking out all over.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. But yet you told me that because I was like, okay, here you go, head gasket.
No, that wouldn't be a head gasket. That'd be a rocker arm cover.
Anything.
Head gasket's like below the head. So.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right.
Rocker arm cover gasket fails relatively frequently.
So Erlen came up with the news that he called his mechanic and he said that because the starter on the other side it's 4107, it's not 4108, and the difference is this and that. There's cooling. 4108 has cooling in the cylinders and the cylinders lining.
Right.
So he said that.
Wait a minute. Cooling in the cylinders lining? You mean water cool?
Yeah. Yeah. The cylinder lining. It's a gap between the cylinder head and the cylinder lining. There is a gap which is cooled by water.
Right.
And this one is a dry cylinder lining. So it's just the cylinder lining is going in the cylinder block, and there is no gap between the cylinder block and the cylinder, the block and the lining.
So how does it cool?
It's a dry lining and wet lining.
How does it cool then?
It cools, I don't know.
By air? No.
No, it doesn't cool. Just.
It doesn't cool? How is that possible?
It's oil. It's the cylinder lining is using oil to lubricate, and
on this one. On this one.
In both. I mean, the cylinder lining gives, like, there is the oil that lubricate the cylinder lining.
Right.
And that's it.
Oh, the oil in the crankcase.
Yeah. So, but this one has cooling for the oil and water cooling around the cylinder lining, which is much better, I guess.
I would think.
So when I told him, when he told me that, I told him, okay, what about if we, as soon as I said, what about if we, don't even think about it. You're not changing the blocks. You got a good engine, don't mess it up. Don't fuck it up. This is what he said.
Right, but you don't want to have, you got to have cooling. Well, come,
well,
are you going to try to change it?
It's a design, so it's not really a problem. It's been like that for a long time. But now, how am I going to get this transmission?
No, but that doesn't make any sense. Then what is this heat exchanger?
Heat exchanger is.
What does this heat exchanger do? It's obviously water. There's water coming in from the sea, and water coming in that goes to the block.
Yeah.
So there's got to be water around in the block, no? In the head.
I mean, he's talking only about the lining, so I'm not sure if there's some other stuff.
So I don't understand what you mean by the lining now. You're talking about the.
See, the cylinder has like the stainless steel tube.
As the piston goes up and down.
Yes.
That there's a lining in there.
There's a gap between the cylinder, like there is an O-ring on top, there's an O-ring on bottom, 418. There's an O-ring and O-ring on the bottom and the top,
right.
And there's a gap between the lining and the block. So the cylinder goes up and down in the lining, and there's a gap between the block and the lining.
Right.
And the water is surrounding the lining to cool it down.
Well, it's surrounding the lining, but it's in the block.
Yes,
the water.
It's in the block, but it's like, you see, there's a gap between the lining and the block in this one. This one is core fitted, like it's fitted straight up.
Wow.
So the rings that on the cylinder lining here, they are making a gap between the cylinder lining and the block.
Okay.
So imagine there's a ring on top and a ring on bottom,
Right.
and it's going in the block.
The piston.
And the block is like the rings are the one that's holding the lining.
Right.
But I'm not really sure. What
That's-
I read about the difference is this one has an opening injectors or something like that. That's why it has this one. It has an opening injector. That's why it has more horsepower.
This one does. The new engine. I mean, the old new engine.
The old engine has,
The old engine.
has more horsepower. This 51. This is I guess 38 or 39.
Wow, that's a big difference.
Yep.
I mean, it's like a 10% more.
When I felt that, I said, "What about if we're changing? Don't even think about it."
Yeah, because it's a big job.
Which is good job. Big job is good job.
You're turning into Erling. Look at you. You're turning into Erling. Erling that can't find enough work on his boat. It's going to fix this, going to fix that, even though it's not broken, blah, blah, blah.
I'm missing one bolt. Where is this? 5, 6 in here. Where is the other one? It's crazy. Just had it in my hands.
Well, you lost a bolt?
Yeah, but I didn't put it anywhere. Just lost it. Disappeared.
Well, you said there was one missing, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, that's true, yeah. So it's 1, 2, 3. And 1, 2, 3. So it's all right. It's good.
You found it?
It's good, yeah.